Happy Labor Day, everybody. Welcome to the Don't Be Ridiculous podcast. It's Monday afternoon, a little after 3 p.m. Eastern. Um, it was not a whole lot of great games in college football this weekend, but it was still entertaining nonetheless. I really enjoyed, week zero. I mean, week zero for college football really doesn't even count. I don't even consider that legitimate football. We actually got a little bit of legitimate football this weekend. So that's cool. And we got the NFL's here, Clark, this week, kickoff week. Um, everybody's excited or not excited, depending on what team you're rooting for.
No,
Um,
everybody's excited because at this point of the year, everyone has hope.
right,
Somehow everybody believes they have hope, even though like if you're a Cardinals fan, you don't have any hope.
right.
Or I mean, hell, even the Texans, you can talk yourself into it. Well, we drafted a quarterback. It's like you guys aren't going to be any good, but whatever.
Well, yeah, and every college team thinks they're going to the playoff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is
Right.
a fun part of the season. I'm glad football's back. It's here. We got something. We're gonna have some constant things to talk about, and looking forward to it. So first, I wanted to, first segment here. I need to eat a little bit of crow. On our last episode, I kind of banged on Colorado and called the media nuts for paying so much attention to them. Basically, that Colorado was going to be this huge story, but they're not going to win any games. And I'm not fully coming off of that. I mean, we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks, but let's talk about the game first. That was a hell of a win by Colorado to go on the road and do that after they basically have 75% of their team is completely new players. That is kind of unprecedented, and they have they have a couple of superstars on their team. The quarterback is a stud, and that Travis Hunter kid that was playing both ways. He was basically he was playing defensive back and receiver. He had an interception and he had 100 yards receiving. He played over 100 plays in the game. That kid is
Yeah.
sensational. Like I think that I don't think Colorado's a great team. I don't think TCU is not the same team that they were last year, obviously. Um, and I think you could see that in the game. Not to mention the fact TCU was never known for defense anyway. So
Big 12 team, yeah. So
yeah, but they were 21-point underdogs and they won the game on the road. That's
yeah,
impressive. You do that in college football, no matter how overrated I think TCU is. You do that in college football, you're legit. And so, I'm still not a believer that, Colorado is going to be bowl eligible or anything like that. But they won one game last year. So if they win 4 games this year, that would be a hell of a season. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the next week they play Nebraska next week and they play Colorado State out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're just going to, they're going to beat some of these teams and they're going to be a problem. I don't know. What do you think?
yeah. I mean, it's tough to tell. I mean, these Big 12, and again, Colorado's not in the Big 12 yet, but these Big 12 games, it's tough to tell,
Right.
because I mean, I know even though they're not in the Big 12 yet, that felt like a Big 12 game. They're playing
Right.
another Big 12 team, and that's usually how those games kind of go. There's a lot of scoring, and defense. I guess if you get turnovers, then I guess that's defense. But other than that, you don't really get a lot of I don't feel like you get a lot of stops. I mean, it was like in the second half, I'm like, whoever has the ball last is probably going to win. So,
Right.
yeah, it's really, and TCU. Let's not, it's one of the funny things that we do in sports, like the way we frame discussions. It's like, well, TCU was the runner-up last year. That doesn't. What does that mean? I mean, that really doesn't matter that much. I mean, especially in college when you have so much turnover, and now with the transfer portal. They don't have the same quarterback they had last year. So, you know, it's an impressive win. And so maybe maybe they can win like 6 games. Maybe, instead of 4, they could win 6 games. I mean, maybe that would be a tremendous improvement from the year before, but they have a totally different team. So,
Right.
yeah, it's too early to tell. But I mean, yeah, impressive win, you know. And it's just, it's funny because like this weekend I'm watching some of these games and I'm trying to like get a sense of these quarterbacks, and I just feel like it's so Did like get a sense of these quarterbacks, be like, who's like for real, like who could actually maybe play in the NFL? And it's really hard for me to like, you know. I mean, I've seen Caleb Williams, and he's just got talent, you know, like crazy. But then I watched Drake May, I'm like, yeah, he's good, you know. You know, I watched Shedeur Sanders. It's like he's pretty good. And then you know the quarterbacks last night for LSU and Florida State. Yeah, they're pretty good, but again, I don't know. I mean, the way these offenses are.
Yeah, I think Shador Sanders put on a show, and I think he's probably gonna. He may have vaulted himself into the first round discussion. But that being said, like this guy was a 4-star quarterback. If he didn't go to Jackson State because his dad was the coach, he would have been on a Power 5 team anyway. So I think some of this, like, oh my God, we can't be surprised this guy's good. Everybody knew he was good. And Travis Hunter was the number 1 recruit in the country last year. So, you know, he's got some 4 or 5-star guys on his team. Not very many, but those guys really played well. And when you do that, you know, you have a chance. And
well,
so
I don't know the rest of their schedule, but if he's got a few of those, I mean, that can carry you for some of those games. You know,
yeah.
So, you know, maybe winning 5 or 6 games isn't totally unrealistic. But
yeah,
you know,
so
again, it's too early. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Colorado, but I may have to suck it up on that. The other thing that I wanted to just kind of touch on was Deion Sanders, and I think what's happening is there's a lot of jealousy going on from other coaches, like the way that they're using the transfer portal. Lee Corso was basically criticizing Deion Sanders on College Game Day about the way that he's doing it. They don't like the fact that he came in there. My sense of it is that they don't like the fact that he came in there, didn't keep a lot of the players that were there. And, you know, like I guess there's this sense you're supposed to come in and, you know, use the guys that you have, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, that was fine in 1982. But when you can do it like this, why wouldn't you? When you can go get better players and it's that easy to get transfers, why wouldn't you do it? Like, I just don't understand. Like, it used to take 2 or 3 years to really build a program up. You know, when it was bad, that's how long it would take. Now, look what Lincoln Riley did the first year at USC. Yes, I know they have Caleb Williams, but he got transfers in there. He did, you know, he brought in 45 new guys or whatever it is. So I think that there's a little bit of animosity that I think is kind of ridiculous. The other thing is, I think because of the way Deion Sanders acts, because of how he's got the media's attention and because of the things he says in press conferences, we think he's an idiot and doesn't know anything about football. And so I think I think there's that kind of sense from especially older coaches and older media members that, well, this guy doesn't really know football. And it's like, you guys do understand this guy was one of the greatest players of all time, right? Like, do people realize, like, this guy, not only that, he's been coaching for 20 years. Like, he started youth football, high school. He's worked his way up to this point. He didn't just all of a sudden get the Colorado job either. So I think there's kind of this attitude about Deion that, oh, well, this guy, you know, he's just not, he doesn't do the right things or he doesn't do it the right way. And I don't totally, you know, I don't get that. I think it's kind of ridiculous. This is all about, like, this is, and the other thing that I think people don't talk about enough in college football is, by the way, the players are on they're at risk too. If the players don't play well, teams get rid of them. They lose their scholarships. Yeah. People act like, oh, you got to come in like this is youth football and you're supposed to take all the guys that are available and win with them and keep everybody on the team. That's not how this works. Like, as Deion was saying it on game day, he was like, this is a business. You know, he's like, everybody thought we just kicked everybody out. He's like, there were about 20 guys that we talked to and said, listen, you may not make this team. The rest of the guys chose to leave. So anyway, so what are your thoughts on the way Deion is perceived and the way that this looks for college football? Because I think it's great.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any problem with it. I mean, we do this funny kind of thing where we're like, we acknowledge that it's a business, right? And then when people start acting like it's a business and they start making decisions based on that, we get all upset. And it's like, well, what do you know? It's like, do you guys want teams to win? Like, they hired Deion Sanders to win, so he's got to put the best team on the field to win games. So, and now you have this transfer portal. You got to use it, you know. By the way, do we really have a problem with the transfer portal? I don't. Like, I mean, I don't understand why you have to sit out if you want to transfer, you know. I mean, if you really want to go through the whole deal of transferring and, whatever, like, fine. I don't have a problem with that. And like I said, the teams, Dion got there to win games. He's got to put the best team on the field to win games. Other schools are using the transfer portal. You know, they were a horrible team last year. So it stands to reason that you had to turn over most of the team. So, yeah, that's, I don't, people do this throughout sports with a variety of issues where they just get, for whatever reason, they get upset about different things. And this is not like, it's like, look, is he kind of noisy with some stuff? Yeah, but I mean, you watch the team play. It's not like they're the University of Miami in the 80s where they're like, gyrating around and pelvic thrusting everywhere when they do something and they're being all offensive. It's like, no, they're just like it seems like Deion Sanders knows what he's doing. They're winning. They've just won their first game. He won games before at Jackson State. So, you know, older people who are really out of touch, like getting upset, we gotta just go, okay, whatever. Like, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just it just kind of I was just kind of reading some stuff online trying to figure out what the where is this coming from? Like what's the problem? And yeah, it just seems like this is the new way to do it. And the thing is, what I will say for Dion is like if he's got if he's got a recruiting advantage where he can just bring 4 or 5 5-star guys with him if he's going somewhere, like if that creates an advantage for him, great. Whatever it is, and if that happens, then the rest of these schools better look out. Because if Dion has an advantage where it's like, oh man, you want to go play for that team, like that looks fun, I want to do that. It's like that's gonna be an issue. Now, I don't think Colorado's not going to beat the best teams in the Pac-12 this year. They're not going to beat USC and Oregon and Utah, and I don't think that's going to happen. But what I will say is he's done a hell of a job, man. That's a great job to turn that thing around. And the other thing is, like Colin Cowherd brought this up, they looked really fluid in the game. There were hardly any penalties. They played relatively clean. Like they knew what they were doing. It wasn't like, oh, we don't know, they didn't know. The first game when there's no preseason games or anything, you wouldn't think it would look that clean, and it did. So that's a credit to him and all the coaches he's brought in and all of that. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Colorado is a big story. Maybe they're I thought it would just be interesting, but I didn't think they would be good enough to win any games. So
Yeah,
shows how much I know.
right.
But yeah, the other things, and I mean, just a couple things, from throughout the day. I mean, a bunch of teams trying out different quarterbacks. So Alabama's looked okay, but again, they were playing Middle Tennessee, so I don't know how you take anything from that. The quarterback from Ohio State looked okay. He was hit or miss, but I don't really feel the need to jump on anybody about any of this. I thought, Jordan Travis played really well for Florida State. I thought that was pretty good, other than some, they had some hiccups here and there, but for the first game, I thought it was pretty good. What really interested me though was when North Carolina beat South Carolina, beat them by 2 or 3 touchdowns in the second half, and North Carolina had 9 sacks. Their defense had 9 sacks on South Carolina. So, I mean, that jumped out to me. Like if North Carolina actually plays defense this year, then look out. Because their
Yeah.
offense is fantastic.
Although they were saying during the game that South Carolina's offensive line maybe was suspect. So,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, they were pretty. Yeah, that was not good. That was a serious problem. So yeah, I don't know. There are some. I feel like there's some things here and there you can take away from the first week, but not a whole lot. We got we got way more important, bigger games to look at. I was texting in the group text last night that Michigan and Georgia basically decided to take the first 2 months off. Like that, we'll see them in November because their schedules are so bad. But this week we got Texas playing against Alabama, so we'll find out who's for real and who isn't. In that game. So, but great first weekend. I was really pulling for LSU. I wanted, I picked LSU to make the playoff, but they got they're not out of it, but they got some issues now. They're going to have to beat Alabama when they play them, and they're pretty much going to have to win all their games the rest of the way. So we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see how it goes. That was a rough loss, but the ACC looks like there's going to be some competition. Clemson's playing Florida State in about 3 weeks, and then the way North Carolina looked, that might be an interesting 3-team conference there. But yeah, looking forward to it. All right. Anything else before we move on to the NFL preview?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, exciting first week. All right. So, NFL preview. What do you want to start with first? Do you want to do the
Who's not going to the Super Bowl?
All right. With back by popular demand. I need
why
to.
don't you say all the teams, and then I'll tell you where I disagree. I'm going to imagine we probably agree on most everything, but
Yeah. I was trying to remember. I don't know. Did I have the Eagles on my list last year and not going to the Super Bowl? I don't know if I did or not, because that would be pretty bad. I can't remember whether I'll have to look back through my.
I mean,
I have to look back through my notes and see what I thought. All right. So 2023. So if your team is on this list, you're not going to the Super Bowl. Now, that doesn't mean the season is a loss, okay? I know the Dolphins are not going to the Super Bowl. I'm just going to break the tension right there. The Dolphins are not going to the Super Bowl, guys. I know everybody's in love with everything, and I have some more Dolphins thoughts, some much bigger picture. We're going to do a whole few minutes on the Dolphins, so we're not going to stop with that right
thoughts.
now.
I mean,
Right. Because that's our team.
Probably
that's
waste too much of our lives talking about how upset we are with the Dolphins, but whatever.
Definitely. Again, doesn't mean your season's a failure, but let's put things in perspective. All right, so Here we go. You're not going to the Super Bowl. The New York Jets, not going. New England Patriots, not happening.
Nope.
Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns.
Nope.
No matter how much Deshaun Watson starts to respect women, you're not going to the Super Bowl. The Tennessee Titans, kind of a transition year, not going to happen. Indianapolis Colts and Houston Texans. I mean, obviously, okay. You're starting a rookie quarterback. Let's just try to have a fun year. I'm trying to remember what city. It's the Las Vegas Raiders now.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders and the fighting Josh McDaniels are not going anywhere. And I have some more Raiders thoughts later. I think Josh McDaniels is a complete fraud as a coach.
Yeah.
And that's definitely going to hold them back. The Dallas Cowboys, come at me. Go ahead. Bring all your nonsense. You're not going to the Super Bowl. Like, I know you guys think you have a shot to win the division. Maybe. All right, maybe. But, the Cowboys are going to disappoint like they always do. The New York Giants, nice year last year. But, maybe you have a shot at the playoffs, but let's be real. You're not going to win playoff games against good teams. The Washington Commanders, I mean, I don't need to say much more about
Sam
that.
Howell?
No. Sam Howell, Ron Rivera starting the season on the hot seat. Green Bay Packers, I think their team is pretty good, but I don't, you're not contenders for anything. The Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins, not taking you anywhere. The Detroit Lions, I know the Detroit Lions have become a sexy team this year, very, very interesting. But, you guys score a lot of points. Your offense is really nice, but can't stop a nosebleed. And, that it's going to be an up and down season for you. Chicago Bears.
I mean, look,
we're just trying to find out if the quarterback's legit or not. That's what you're trying to get out of this season. Do we have a quarterback, or are we drafting one next year? That's what this season comes down to. The New Orleans Saints. I like Derek Carr. A lot of people like Derek Carr. I think he's going to be pretty good. I think they might have a shot to win the division, but not that team's not winning multiple playoff games. Tampa, I mean, come on, you're starting Baker Mayfield. What are we doing here? Atlanta Falcons. There's another sexy team that everybody seems to like. Who's your quarterback again? Yeah. Carolina Panthers. So you drafted the smallest quarterback in history and you don't protect him. Good luck with that. As Dolphin fans, we're finding that out, how that works, the last few years. Seattle Seahawks. Look, I'm in on the Seattle Seahawks. I really like them. Like, I think they got a shot to win that division. I think that roster is loaded, but you're not winning playoff games with Geno Smith. The Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, there's no reason to even talk more about that. I think the Rams might be better than people think they are this year. But Arizona should be bad. They should make sure that they're bad. They should do
They're
everything in their
trying to be
power
bad. Yeah.
to try to be bad. That's exactly what they should do. So, so basically, that leaves 9 teams left. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 teams left that I think have a legitimate shot to go to the Super Bowl. So I have 7 that I feel like have to be on any Super Bowl contender list. Okay, Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
I feel like now I have some concerns about the Chargers and the 49ers, but I feel like they have to be on the list as far as Super Bowl contenders go.
Did you include Denver on the not making it to the Super Bowl list?
So there's 2 teams that I feel like I'm not going to put on the not going to the Super Bowl list, but to me they're on the outside of the Super Bowl bubble, if you want to call it that. They're on the outside. To me, it's the Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like I can't put them on the not going to the Super Bowl list, but if they start out badly the first month, they're probably going to be a cross off.
So, all right, I'm fine with putting them both on the list of not making it to the Super Bowl. Those are the only 2 I disagree with. And by the way, the Broncos I think are just going to be a 6-7 win team. Maybe 8 wins, depending on how things go, especially depending on how Russell Wilson plays. But the Ravens could have a good year. They could win like 11 games. But I just, could they make it to the AFC Championship game? Maybe. Maybe. I would more likely say they either make the playoffs and lose or they win one playoff game and lose. I don't think they'd win multiple playoff games and make the Super Bowl. So I would put them on the not making the Super Bowl list. The Broncos, I just have too many questions. I don't know what to expect. So I'm totally cool putting them on. They're not making the Super Bowl. Oh, by the way, the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. So Nick Wright went on First Things First last week, and he's predicting the Cowboys to go all the way to the Super Bowl. And he's been, I think we've talked about this a little bit. He's been kind of all over the Cowboys. He really likes them, and I just don't get it. Okay. You're really that cool with Mike McCarthy calling plays? The offensive line, is not as good as it once was. Are you guys going to run the ball as much as you should? Are you going to run the ball successfully? People seem to think that their defense is really, really good. I don't know. I don't necessarily know that. They have some playmakers on their defense, which you need. I don't really think they're, great. And Dak Prescott is Dak Prescott. I don't understand what am I supposed to do with, okay, Dak won, the Cowboys won 12 games 2 years in a row. Good for them. That's good regular season success. You can't really dispute that, okay? But, I'm supposed to take that and then go, they're supposed to go to the Super Bowl? Are you saying that about the Ravens? Because I don't think the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl. Even though I like Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to win a ton of games. That doesn't mean that they're going to go to the playoffs and win multiple playoff games against good defenses. When Dak plays good teams, he's not as good. Okay? It's been that way throughout his whole career. Okay? I don't understand why that's supposed to change now. He's 8 years into his career? I mean, I think we kind of know what he is at this point. And and the other thing is, Nick Wright seems convinced that Dak Prescott is clearly way better than Kirk Cousins. No. Okay? Now, if you want to say you think you prefer Dak over Kirk Cousins a little bit, okay, fine. But massively better? Come on. They're more or less the same quarterback.
Their statistics are basically exactly the same. They've won basically the same amount of playoff games, right? There's no reason why Dak Prescott should be in the top 8 quarterbacks and Kirk Cousins is 12th when they're basically the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's look, I do want to be clear here. Dak Prescott, given that he's a 4th-round pick, has had an awesome career. I mean, are you kidding me? He's had a really good... he's won 2 playoff games. Again, they beat Tampa Bay last year. Tampa Bay was a mess last year. But he did throw for a bunch of yards. I'll give him credit for that. And he won 12 games, 2 seasons in a row. That's pretty good. And he's put up some solid numbers. I'm not saying that I hate Dak Prescott or anything. He's good. you know, he's just not, elite. I don't know what, and Nick Wright's trying to sell me on all these other receivers, and I'm just like, Nick, when he had Amari Cooper, he was like one way. Then Amari Cooper leaves, and these other receivers, they're okay, but they're
Right.
not like.
The problem I see for the Cowboys, like if you're picking them to go far, is that they basically have one running back and one receiver. That's basically what their team is. If either one of those guys gets injured, they're in a lot of trouble. Like they literally cannot sustain, they have too many one-offs where it's one guy at this position and he's great. If that guy gets hurt, if Micah Parsons gets hurt, if Trayvon Diggs gets hurt, they have about 6 guys where they're incredibly top heavy, and if anything happens to them, they're in big trouble. So yeah, I guess I can't have the Cowboys on the not going to the Super Bowl list without putting Denver on there too. So I guess now that you say that, like, yeah, I guess I have to put Denver on the not going to the Super Bowl
Well, and
list.
the other argument people might make is, well, it's the NFC, and I'm like, okay, that's fair, but you know, I, I don't know. So if they're playing like the Giants or the Vikings or the Eagles or hell, even Seattle or uh, Seattle or who did I say, the Eagles, the 49ers. I'm trying to think of what other teams, you know. If they're playing, say the Cowboys make the playoffs and then they're playing, like, say they win. Well, no, I'm trying
Or
to
if they're
figure out how
playing like
this.
the Saints or something.
Yeah, but that wouldn't. Well, okay, say the Cowboys didn't win the division, then they're playing the Saints. Okay, you could beat the Saints. Granted, the
Right.
game would be in New Orleans, which might be kind of tough. But yeah, you could probably do that. But against a team like the Giants, okay, that's a close game. I don't know. That could go either way. Against the Vikings, yeah, that could potentially go either way. I mean, depending on, do you get an insane pass rush on the Vikings, then yeah, you're probably going to win. But um but yeah, I mean, and then against the 49ers, it's like, well, yeah, Brock Purdy's not anything necessarily special. It's like, well, he doesn't really need to be. I mean,
Yep.
the 49ers defense just shut the Cowboys down last year. I mean, and Dak made some really bad interceptions. Like, I don't, there's games I can see where you can make an argument for Dallas, but you're trying to tell me they're going to win like 3 playoff games? Like, I just don't see
Right.
it. I have a hard time seeing them winning 2 playoff games. So,
Right. Yeah, I think that the NFC has a lot of evenly matched teams once you
right.
get past Philadelphia and San Francisco, which their rosters are just so good that it's gonna be tough to
Yeah,
beat
and
them.
Dallas fans don't. Okay, I'm just going to point something out. Don't sleep on the Giants or the Commanders when you play them. Okay, it's a divisional game. I'm not saying I like the Commanders that much, but I'm sorry. I've got too much history with the Cowboys in those divisional games where they kind of screw around, and some of those games come down to a couple coaching decisions or something.
And by the way, isn't the Giants roster like pretty close to the Cowboys roster? Like their offensive line's getting better, their running backs clearly better, right? The defense, they've got some guys on defense. Like I don't think I think we're acting like the Cowboys are going to win 12 or 13 games. I don't think it's a shoe in for that. Their schedule is tough. They got to play the AFC East and the NFC West. Like
Yeah.
this is not going to be a cakewalk. But anyway, yeah, we could go on about the Cowboys forever. So, just moving on with my list. So yeah, that basically gives me, I think there's seven real Super Bowl contenders, which that's about what it should be. These people telling you, anyone who tells you that, oh, the NFL's parity and there's wide open and all these teams have a chance. No, they don't. We know, like, the NFL is getting more and more like basketball, where who's your quarterback? Okay, that'll tell us whether you have a chance or not. We know who the contenders are. We're going to know who they are every single year. It's kind of the way it is. That's just the way the league is now. So we all need to accept it. So look, this is my list of you're not going to the playoffs.
Oh, here
The
we
Colts, the Texans, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Bears, the Bucks, and the Cardinals. Those are teams that I am 100% sure are not going to the playoffs. Now, I think we could have discussions about the Patriots or one of the AFC North or the Steelers.
Yeah.
The Patriots, the Steelers, we could talk about them. The Commanders. We could have discussions. I'm not 100% for sure they're not going to the playoffs. That's why I didn't put them on the list. I think the Steelers have become kind of an interesting pick for people. I think they may sneak in, but it depends on how that AFC North goes because that division could go any number of ways.
Right.
And the Cleveland Browns, obviously, they'd be a candidate for not going to the playoffs, but they're kind of up in the air. Cleveland and Denver, I don't know what I'm going to get this year.
Yeah, I would be surprised. Yeah, I no, I'll put Denver on the not making the playoffs list. I don't see it. I think they could win between 6 and 8 games, but I don't think it'll be enough to get them into the playoffs. So, yeah, I'll put them on the, they're not making the St. Raiders. Like, you put the Raiders on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Patriots, that could, depending on how things kind of work out.
The Rams are definitely, they're definitely a front runner to make this list if their first month doesn't go well. But,
Yeah.
And then that NFC South, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to put the Panthers on there too. I apologize. Panthers are on the not going to the playoffs list.
Yeah, Panthers, Bucks. Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, I left the Saints and the Falcons with a shot because one of them has to win the division, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, these are it becomes challenging. You get to there's about 8 to 10 teams that they could go either way. So that's where this becomes challenging. All right, so do you want to pick the divisions next, or do you want to talk about the Dolphins?
Oh yeah, let's pick we'll pick the divisions. All right.
So I just wrote them, in order 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't try to write records or win losses because it's not. I'm not that. I don't need to dive that into it. If you're looking for that, there's a million websites that can give you all that information. So all right, AFC East. I've got Bills first, Jets second, Dolphins third, Patriots fourth. I went back and forth on the Jets Dolphins because I think both their rosters are pretty good. I just think the Jets are going to be more solid on defense than the Dolphins are. And I think it's, but don't get me wrong. The Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, I think all three teams are going to be within 7 to 10 wins. So that could come down to tiebreakers or one win more than another team. And also just my thought that the Dolphins should win 10 games, but they won't. They'll somehow go 9-8 again. And that will cause them to be in third place.
Okay. So, all right. So you just picked the AFC East first?
Yeah. Did you?
Okay.
Did you have?
I couldn't remember.
What did you think?
So the AFC East, yeah, Bills won. Oh, God, that's so tough.
It is. That division, our division is actually really good.
I'll put the Dolphins second because McDaniels, the Jets, they got a different quarterback. They brought in some different players, and I'm concerned about their offensive line, although I'm concerned about the Dolphins' offensive line. So I think maybe the Dolphins win 10 games. Well, no, they could still go 9-8. So, yeah, Bills won, they go like 10-7. Dolphins go 9-8, and then the Jets go like 8-9 and miss the playoffs or something. Like I could see it kind of going that way, and the Patriots could go like 7-10. But yeah, I think the Bills win that, and I think I'll take the Dolphins to make the playoffs. I kind of don't want them to, but I think they're probably going to. I don't know. The Jets, I just have some concerns about. Now, again, that could totally flip, and the Dolphins could end up missing the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Yeah, the Dolphins are definitely a go either way team because
so are the Jets too. I mean, to be honest, it's going to be like after the first couple months, we're going to kind of see, all right, whose offensive line is really suspect, and then is Tua hurt yet, and how long is he out?
The other thing I think is that Aaron Rodgers can make up for some offensive line issues because he's a veteran quarterback.
Possibly.
So I think we'll
see.
But that doesn't mean I think the Jets are contenders. I just think they might be able to finish one game ahead of the Dolphins. That's not I'm not saying a lot there. I'm just, So yeah, I think Buffalo. I think people are now, I think the over under on Buffalo is like 10.5. So I think Buffalo, like saying Buffalo could win 11 games, I think they could easily do that. I don't think that's that much of a stretch. All right, AFC North. This is a cluster of a division, but I put the Bengals first, even though Burrow's coming off an injury. I think they'll end up in first place by the end of the season. I put the Ravens second. And then this was the hardest part of the third and the fourth. I put the Browns third because I just think the Browns roster is really good. Their offense, they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Their running back's awesome. They got one of the best pass rushers in the league. Like I think, I think Deshaun just got to be solid. If he's just solid, I think Cleveland's going to be really good. And then I had the Steelers fourth. I think that's really tight though. I think Browns Steelers could go down to the last week, but I just think the Browns. I know nobody likes them, but I just think the Browns roster is really good.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess I'd go with that same. I mean, I just feel like that's one of those divisions where it's really hard to repeat as the division winner.
Right.
So I'm gonna. Oh man. I mean, I guess I'll take the. All right, I'm going to take the Ravens. I'm going to cross my fingers that Lamar Jackson doesn't get injured and is out for a long time.
Yep.
So Lamar Jackson, they'll win the division. I'll take the Bengals second. And then
It's a tough one. A lot of people like the Steelers this year.
well, you can still like the Steelers. I'll take the Browns and then the Steelers. You can still like the Steelers. The Steelers could end up going like 8-9. So
Yep.
the Browns could go 9-8. I mean, like I could totally see that. So, and those teams are just going to kind of beat each other up. So the winner of the division might only have like 11 wins.
Right.
So, yeah, so I'll go Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and then Steelers.
All right. So AFC South. I mean, this one is a little bit easier. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm taking Jacksonville to win the division, even if
no
Jacksonville
questions
struggles.
asked.
I
Yeah,
still think they're going to win the division. I don't think. I think it could be interesting with Tennessee. We'll see. Because you get to play the Colts and the Texans twice, so that really helps out your win total. But I still think Jacksonville's clearly the better team. I think Tennessee's in a bit of a transition year. They may be replacing Tannehill some point this season. We'll see what happens.
yeah,
If
good
they
luck with
decide
that.
if they want to play Will Levis or not. I don't know what's going to happen. Last year Tennessee just had a lot of injuries, but they started out 7-3, so they were pretty good and then kind of fell apart. So, but I'll
Yeah,
take Tennessee to go second. This again, third and fourth was really difficult. I took Houston third because I don't believe in that Colts team. I don't know about I think Ursay has just become a complete disaster as an owner this year, and I think Houston is just going to be solid. They're going to be more solid than Indianapolis is. I don't think either team is going to win more than 6 games, but so I went Jacksonville, Tennessee, Houston, and then Indianapolis fourth.
um, yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna flip the Colts and the Texans. So Jacksonville, Tennessee, Colts, and then Texans. I think Anthony Richardson will actually have a pretty nice year, as some rookie quarterbacks do when they have an insane amount of talent and athletic ability, and I think
Yep.
that'll kind of carry them. I'm not saying I know how good Anthony Richardson's going to be long term, but I've seen
Right.
this happen a bunch of times where a guy comes in, a lot of talent, and just kind of they're able to utilize them the right way, and they can win games that way. I think they can pull that again. I'm still picking them to finish third in the division, so I'm not like picking them to be unbelievable, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. AFC West. This one I felt like was pretty easy. I'm taking the Chiefs to win the division. Shocker. And then I took the Chargers second, even though they confuse and bewilder us. They've done it forever. But I'll take the Chargers second because I don't know how much I can trust from Denver. So I'm going to put Chargers second, Denver third, and obviously the Raiders fourth.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I think. But as far as I think the Chiefs, the concern this year is going to be their receivers. Can they do this with really average receivers, even if they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce? And how long does Chris Jones hold out? That could be a little bit of an issue. The Chargers, I'm not buying 100% into Kellen Moore as that he's this great offensive coordinator. We'll see. I know Dallas had this amazing offense and everybody's going nuts. Yeah, but Dallas did all that mostly against bad teams. And anytime they played a good team, it didn't quite look the same. So I'm not convinced that, Kellen Moore is just going to change everything and that's going to make the Chargers offense awesome. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm hoping that the new receiver they drafted works out. And I really like the Chargers, and I really would like to see them do well. But I'm not totally sold. And plus, Brandon Staley's the head coach, so there's some untrustworthiness that goes in.
Yeah, and they're the Chargers. They just they lose games they shouldn't lose. Like you start to buy into them, you get behind them, and then they let you down. So it's like
And they blow a 27-point lead in a playoff game. It's so Chargers that it fits them so perfectly. It's crazy. Denver, I don't know what I'm getting from Russell Wilson. All I know is what I saw, and what I saw last year is Russell didn't know what the hell was going on. He was seeing guys open and not throwing the ball, and so I don't. Once you see quarterbacks start doing that, I don't know whether that's fixable or not. But I don't think Denver's going to fool around either. I think if Russell struggles, I think he may get replaced. And the Raiders, look, Josh McDaniels is a hack as a head coach. It's obvious. All the information, all the data is out there. All you got to do is read it. People seem to still believe in Josh McDaniels because of the whole Patriots thing. And we'll see. We'll see. We'll see when Derek Carr flourishes in New Orleans and Jimmy Garoppolo looks bad with the Raiders. Then
looks bad before he gets hurt. Yeah.
Right. I'll be proven right. So I think McDaniels is a complete joke and should be fired before the season's over. All right. Any disagreement there? I think you're right on board with it.
No, I'm right. Yeah,
all right. NFC East. Sorry to disappoint the Cowboy fans. I'm still taking the Eagles to win the division. Even if they pull back a little bit, they won 14 games and Jalen Hurts missed 2 or 3 games. So I still think at minimum the Eagles win 11 games because their roster is just fantastic. I took the Cowboys second. Cowboys are good enough to be second in the division, no question about it. Then I took the Giants and the Commanders.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I'm gonna go with that. I think the Eagles could maybe take a little step back this year, but I don't. The Cowboys probably won't win 12 games again. So
right. Yeah, I think the Eagles are right. They're not going to be quite as dominant. So their schedule's a little bit tougher. So maybe they don't win 14, maybe they win 11. But I still think they're the best team in the division. I think when they play the Cowboys, that'll be obvious. All right, NFC North. Now this one, talk about a fun division. I know the Lions are the sexy pick. I know everybody's talking up the Lions. I'm going against the grain here. I'm going Vikings to win the division. I still think their roster is fantastic. I think their defense hopefully will be a little bit better than last year. I don't think it has to be unbelievable, but just a little bit better. Yeah, they got
Brian Flores, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think hopefully that helps them a little bit. I had the Packers second. Again, because of the roster. I think the Packers roster is so darn good that, I don't think Jordan Love's going to be expected to do it all himself. I think they can run the ball. They've got guys at every position. I think they'll be solid pretty much everywhere. So, yeah, I took the Lions third. in the division. I think the way that they played last year, the offensive coordinator's nice and all that, but I think teams are going to catch up to them a little bit, and their defense is terrible. So they had some questionable draft picks, and I took the Bears fourth. I know people, the Bears have become a team. Oh, they could win 7 or 8 games. I still don't think they're going to win a lot of games. I'm hoping Justin Fields plays better, but I don't see them as a good team. And Yeah, so that's I said Vikings, Packers, Lions, Bears.
Yeah, I'm gonna so Vikings, Lions, Packers, Bears. So I switched one of them. So, and by the way, that's not to say that I think Green Bay is going to be bad. I don't think they'll be bad, but I just,
No.
I think the Lions will be a little better.
Yeah, I think the Packers will be a solid team. I don't understand why people seem to like the Bears more than the Packers. I don't
Yeah,
quite get that.
that's no, not,
The Packers just have a much better roster, better coached, all of that stuff. All right, NFC South. This is another fun division. But I had I had the Saints winning it. I think Derek Carr is good. I think McDaniels is a fraud, and I think that's the reason why he didn't look very good last year. And Greg Cosell is out there saying that Derek Carr wasn't good, but it wasn't because of Derek Carr. It was because of the system that they put him in. So I think Derek Carr is going to be good for the Saints. I think the Saints already have a good defense. They've got Michael Thomas and Olave, the two receivers on offense. If Kamara comes back, they're going to be a pretty good team. Are they going to win 12 games? No, but that's going to be a pretty good team. Then I had the Falcons second. I think the Falcons' offensive talent is pretty good. I don't think they have a quarterback to really lead them, but they're a running team. They like to run the ball, and they drafted Bijan Robinson, so I think he's going to have a good rookie season. So I took the Falcons. I took the Panthers third. This was a tough one between the Panthers and the Bucks. I think this could go really badly for the Panthers if they're going to continue to not protect their quarterback. And Bill Simmons was bringing this up, like, why are we convinced that Frank Reich is some quarterback whisperer? Nick Foles won the Super Bowl against the Eagles or against the Patriots. And so now, we've decided that, Frank Reich is legit, even though he hasn't done real great with the quarterbacks he's had recently. Even though I would argue Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz were pretty good on the Colts. But I'm just not convinced. I don't think the Panthers' offensive line is very good. They don't really have a whole lot of skill position guys. Their best wide receiver is Adam Thielen. Like, this team's not going to win a lot of games. So I had the Panthers third, and then the Bucks fourth. The Bucks are, searching for the number one pick next year.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I wouldn't change anything there. I mean, again, the Saints could win the division at 8-9. I mean, or 7-10. I mean, it's literally that's. I feel like that's on the table.
Yeah,
so.
It's not a good. It's probably the worst division in the NFL. So I think that. Yeah, that's definitely there. NFC West, I went a little different than everybody would like. I'm taking the Seahawks to win the division. I like their roster. I think they are just loaded with talent, and they'll be solid the whole year. And if they can just get the defense to play a little bit better than they did last year, which I think Pete Carroll can do, give all those guys all that great draft class they had in 2022 another year to kind of get there. I like Seattle and to win the division. I picked the 49ers second, the Rams third, the Cardinals fourth. I think the 49ers are going to win because of their roster. But I think we're all going to realize, as I've said before, Brock Purdy's not a franchise quarterback, and we know Sam Darnold isn't. So, I don't think the 49ers are going to win 13 or 14 games and just be incredible this year. I think there may be some issues, but they're too good not to be competitive, and it'll be close. That division will be really close. But I think the Rams are. I think the Rams are going to be okay. They're not going to be great. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they'll be okay. And the Cardinals should be terrible, and I think they want to be terrible.
Yeah. I'm going to take the 49ers to win the division, then I'll take the Seahawks second, and then Rams, Cardinals. Because I just, and again, maybe the 49ers take a little bit of a step back, but, I'm not totally convinced on the Seahawks. Like, I think that they're a good team, but I'm not totally convinced about Geno Smith. So, we'll see.
Right. Yeah, I think that I just like their roster a lot. I just think they've drafted really well, and what they've done from last year to this year, I think they can improve, and they can keep Kenneth Walker healthy, and then they drafted another running back. I think that's a really fun team. And yeah, it is a little bit of going out on a limb. Them beating out the 49ers, but we'll see. All right, are we going to do we want to do Super Bowl picks? I'm not really gung-ho,
Uh,
on it.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know. 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 I me I don't really have a. I mean, I don't really have a strong conviction on anything. If you want to pick the Chiefs, like go ahead, that's fine. That's. If you wanted to pick like the Bengals, okay. If you wanted to pick the Bills, I might disagree with you a little bit, but okay. I mean, hell, you could pick the Jaguars. And
Well,
I'd yeah, maybe.
what do you think about Jacksonville like doing what the Eagles did last year, and because their schedule is a little bit easier, getting the 1 seed? I think that's an interesting idea. Jacksonville,
Yeah,
just because of their schedule being pretty light, them just being taking advantage of it and getting the 1 seed. I don't know that that's a lot harder to do in the AFC than the NFC, so it's a lot less likely. But I just think that's a really interesting idea there.
well, you got Nick Wright saying that the Chiefs are going to go 20-0. So.
Yeah, there's a
And
little.
even if Chris Jones is out half the season, it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, the Chiefs are not like, again, the Chiefs could totally win the Super Bowl again. They're not unbeatable though.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
can we just slow down on that? They're not totally unbeatable.
Yeah, no, listen, their defense needs some work. If Chris Jones is going to be out, they're really not the same defense anymore. And,
Yeah,
like I said, their receivers are pretty average. So you're asking guys like Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore and, these guys that, they're lower level guys to do a whole lot. And I know, all right, they won the Super Bowl last year. Okay. They also gave up 35 points to Philadelphia. So it's not as if it's not a slam dunk. Like that's what I would say. It's not a slam dunk. Now, do I think the Chiefs should be one of the two? If you're not picking the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, they're second or third on your list. Absolutely, But yeah, they're going to be a really good dominant team. All right, so do you want to talk about the Dolphins? Should we do it? Should we get it out of the
all
way?
right, let's do it.
All right, so well, first of all, Clark, I think what's I've been thinking about this. What's going on with the Dolphins? Like, if you're like you've got to be at least 35 years old to have seen the Dolphins actually be good. You know what I mean? Like I'm 44, you're 41, right? So you've got to be, and we saw, and Marino was still playing when we were kids. So we didn't really see, we basically saw the second half of Marino's career. So
Yeah,
in order for you to, like, you've got to be, you got to be around our age, to imagine the Dolphins being good. So I think what happens is like the fans now that are all younger than that, they don't have the trauma of seeing what the Dolphins could have been and then watching all of this fall apart, the way that it has. So so you give them just a little bit, right? Oh my God, the Dolphins might make the playoffs. All the younger fans get all excited, right? Because they're just used to the Dolphins sucking. So the fact that they do anything well, it's like, oh my God, it's so impressive. And it's like, yeah, we grew up in an era where we used to be Super Bowl contenders. Like we were making AFC championship games. So we carry that. That's why I think there's a divide in Dolphins fans where Clark, we carry the trauma of being Dolphins fans with us. So when we would look at this team, that's how we see it. We see it in this trauma-filled cloud, whatever. Which, by the way, we're justified because look at the ownership of the team. We're
yeah,
justified in seeing it that way. But that's where I think the divide is, where all these people get all excited about Tua, and we're all the older Dolphin fans like us are like, yeah, not the guy. So I
yeah,
just thinking about that, I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was really interesting. And then you texted me the other day about, it's funny to watch Deion Sanders as the coach when we remember how good he was as a player in the 90s. We watched
yeah.
him, and we're so old now because everybody else is like, he played.
Yeah, he played. Okay, remember one time we were watching NFL primetime and they show highlights of him playing on the Falcons, and then he gets on a helicopter and goes to the World Series because he played on the Braves.
Yep.
It's just that, and I remember I love when he would they'd show highlights of the Falcons and Chris Berman and Tom Jackson, prime time, because that was his nickname. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, we remember like him on the Atlanta Falcons, which was the early '90s.
Yep.
So
And by the way, he was spectacular. He's probably the best defensive back of all time. So that's how good this guy was. Like, he wasn't just, oh, this guy was a good player. No, he's one of the best ever. Like, Jerry Rice is the best receiver by a mile. Deion's probably the best cornerback by a mile. Like, that's how it is. So yeah, so I think that's part of the reason why you and I struggle with a lot of these younger Dolphins fans that are making YouTube comments about how fantastic it is and we're coming and all of this nonsense. I think that's part of the reason. So look, Dolphins season outlook. I'm going to just give you some numbers here, give you some numbers here that I looked up, for last year, so we can get the facts right about what the Dolphins actually are. So last season, the Dolphins had the 12th best offense in the NFL. Okay,
sounds about right.
By the quarterback rankings, they have the 17th best quarterback. Okay, they had the worst running game in the NFL last year. Attempts, yards,
I didn't realize it was
whatever
that
it
bad.
is. PFF ranks the Dolphins' offensive line coming into this season 20th. So the 20th best offensive line. Last year, they were like 24th. So they think they might be 20th this year. So that's supposed to be an improvement, I guess. And they had the 24th best defense last year. Last year, they scored 50 more points in 2022 than they did in 21. They also gave up 50 more points than they did in 2022 than they gave up in 2021. So the offense got better from 21 to 22. The defense got worse. Okay? Well, the offense got better. There are a lot of parts about the offense that didn't get better. And like I said, the Dolphins' talent would suggest that they should win 10 games. But we know they won't. This is one of those teams where the talent does not necessarily live up to production. They had a lot of these players last year that didn't really live up to it.
Well, can we also just side note real quick, okay? Something that I find funny that we're starting to do this in the NFL, and it's not, okay. In the NBA, talent usually wins, okay? If I look at two teams and they go, this team has more talent, they're probably going to beat the other team, okay? And that's not necessarily always the case, but it usually is. In the NFL, sometimes that's the case. But the Patriots almost never went into games having more talent than the other team. Right. And they won tons of... so I just love this idea. We're going, they have all this talent. It's like, there's plenty of NFL teams that have had a lot of talent. It doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to come together, especially when you got questions about the offensive line and the quarterback.
And this is where the Dolphins are giving some false hope. If everybody on their team, as their roster, you read down the names on the roster, if everybody's healthy and playing, yes, they're a very talented team. But that's already not going to be the case. Jalen Ramsey, they're talking about he may not be back until December. Yeah. So if we're back to where our secondary was last year, where Xavier Howard's the best corner and he can't cover anybody, they're in deep trouble. Okay? Yeah. The other thing is Armstead already got hurt in preseason, so we're hoping he'll be ready for week one. Jeff Wilson, the running back's on injured reserve already, so he's going to miss the first 4 games, right? The right guard is also on injured reserve. He's going to miss the first 4 games, right? We know Armstead's going to get hurt at some point, right? So they don't have, the thing is, this talented team that everybody's talking about, they don't really have that team because all these guys are going to be out. So this season could get away from the Dolphins real quick. They play the Chargers on the road and the Patriots on the road, first 2 games. Then they come back home to play Denver, and then I think they play the I forget who they play, Buffalo. They play Buffalo on the road in the 4th game. So, I know we're all excited about this. I get it, blah, blah, blah. I understand. And, again, on paper, they're really talented. But that's not who's going to be playing in week 1. We're not going to have those guys in week 1. So, and I know Tua's been doing jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, and I know he gained 10 pounds. I understand that. But it's not going to make any difference if they can't protect. So,
that and what was I going to say? So the Chargers, guys, I understand that the Chargers gave up a huge lead last year in the playoffs, but are we forgetting what happened when the Chargers played the Dolphins last year? The game was in L.A., so is the same place it's going to be this year, and the Dolphins offense, you guys, this is what people are not, they're thinking when Tua has a bad game, guys have bad games. Yeah, but they don't have, really good quarterbacks don't have games where they just can't move the ball. Okay?
Right.
You don't see like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or, you don't see some of these other quarterbacks just not moving the ball. Hell, you don't see Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins just not moving the ball. All right?
Yep.
So, and guys, that's not the first time I've seen that. I saw that the first 2 years of his career. Numerous times. So, you're telling me that, even when he has a bunch of talent around him, now, again, that's the other problem. There's limits to the amount of talent they have around him, particularly when the offensive line is a problem. So, anyway, continue.
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got the offensive line has got to be really good. Like, you got to protect the guy. Obviously, he clearly is going to get hurt. So, this is one of the things that I've been on for I don't know how many years now, at least a decade. These teams, I don't understand these teams. They bring in quarterbacks and they don't protect them. I have no idea what we're doing when that should be your number one priority, and clearly it isn't, because the Dolphins' offensive line is at the bottom half of the league again. So this is clearly an issue that needs to be fixed. Instead, we go trade for Jalen Ramsey and we do all this stuff that's completely unnecessary instead of protecting the quarterback, which is the number one thing. The other thing is you need a good offensive line so you can run the ball to take the pressure off of your quarterback. So there's some red flags with this team, even though I know on paper they're really talented. There are some red flags. The other thing is that you just brought up is guys, we gotta accept the facts, and we talked about this on the last show. Tua is the 17th best quarterback. He's mediocre. That's what he is. We need to accept this as a reality. Does he have the ability to play well sometimes? Yes. Does he do it every week? No. Okay? This idea that, when he was healthy, he was great. No, when he was healthy, he was supremely inconsistent. That's what he is. He's been a very inconsistent quarterback. And you can blame other stuff, and I agree that the Dolphins have not done a very good job with him. The way they handled him the first 2 years is a travesty. What they've done with the offensive line is a joke. Yes, they have not supported him the way that they should. But there's other quarterbacks who don't get very much support, and they do just fine anyway. He's not that guy. So we'll see how this goes. By the end of this season, they could be signing him to a contract, and we could be just, ready to jump off a cliff, because that would be just a gigantic mistake.
Yeah.
But it's much more likely that he's going to play about 11 or 12 games, because that's what he's done. Look at the last 5 years of his career. That's what he does.
Well,
he misses games.
That's interesting. So what do you, before the season starts, let's just kind of maybe try to predict what we think's going to happen next offseason based on the year that we think Tua's going to have. Okay? Because, I would argue that basically, in order for him to be the quarterback, quarterback beyond next season, not this upcoming season, but next season, they would have to give him a contract extension in this upcoming off season. So in 2024. For the following season, right? Because you don't want to just have the guy on the 5th-year extension with no contract. I mean, I would think you don't want to do that.
You don't want that, but they already tabled his contract discussions until after this season. So I'm not convinced that they're going to get a deal done. I think with Christian Wilkins they will, but
okay.
I'm not convinced.
All right, that's I guess we'll kind of go with that. Maybe they would just go into that season without the extension. I mean, that would be kind of awkward, but we've seen it happen now with other quarterbacks. So, yeah.
It would, by the way,
I don't know.
It would.
My only hang up with that would be that I think, Tua's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where his agent's head is kind of at, because you would think that, with Tua's injury history, he would want to get something done. So
You would think, but look, I mean, if I'm the Dolphins, I wouldn't do anything. You have all the power. You can franchise tag him if you need to. I wouldn't understand why you would. Now, does that mean if he has another year this year, just like last year, maybe they come to an agreement that's far under what the top quarterbacks are making, and maybe they just meet in the middle. Maybe that happens. I don't know. But I think my prediction for this season is going to be pretty similar to last year. He's going to play about 11 or 12 games. He's going to miss because of, I don't necessarily think he has to have a concussion. Like, he'll have some other injury because the guy, you look at the guy's injury list, it's longer than the interstate. So, I think that, that's probably, it's going to be pretty similar to last year. They're going to win 9 games for the third year in a row. And I think that's what we've come to expect this team. They are fantastically mediocre. Now, could it go south and go worse than that? Sure. If he gets injured at the wrong time when the Dolphins are playing really tough teams, they're going to have some serious issues. But yeah, I think it's going to be pretty similar to last year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe McDaniel will have some kind of answer to what defenses are going to do, because we know what's coming. Like, we can all see what's going to happen.
If they can run the ball, then that can kind of fix some stuff. But part of the problem with that is I'm not necessarily convinced they can run the ball effectively on a consistent basis. And I'm not sure that McDaniel's going to run the ball, as much as probably they should. So,
Oh, and I forgot. I left one thing out. So Mike Lombardi was listing his best coaches. I think he had McDaniel like 15th. So,
Okay.
Is he a real? That's the thing. We still have to find out. Is he really a head coach, or is he just a good coordinator? Is he just a play caller, or is he going to manage the game appropriately? Because last year he was just calling plays. Like, you could see it. The guy wanted to be aggressive at all times, even when we're playing, Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. He keeps trying to be aggressive and go down the field. I don't understand it. So yeah, the Dolphins have a lot more questions than answers.
Yeah. And by the way, Dolphins fans, don't get overly excited if the Dolphins get the ball first against the Chargers and they go right down the field and score a touchdown. I've seen Tua do that numerous times. That doesn't necessarily have any bearing on how he's going to play the rest of the game. Okay? Like, McDaniel's smart enough, you can scheme up a drive for the first drive of the year and drive right down the field on somebody. That's not,
Here's what I would like to see. Let's inject some positivity in here. Here's what I would like to see. I would like to see Tua play in a game and struggle in the first quarter and then get better as the game goes on. Okay? All the games this season, he either starts out rolling and keeps it rolling, or he starts out bad and completely falls off a cliff and plummets. That's the problem. That's where the inconsistency comes in. So I really think that, does he have a chance to do that? Sure. I really think that, they could figure that out. Finally, he gets a second year with the same offensive coordinator. Finally, basically the same guys around him, right? So, all right, let's see if we can figure this out. And the Dolphins defense, like, if they can just get a little bit better. Vic Fangio, I think, is known for, he's not going to blitz as much as they were blitzing. So if he can keep it under control, I think they're going to play more zone, which is good, because Xavier Howard showed, I don't know that he can cover guys like he used to be able to. So there's your positivity, right? Positivity is, hey, maybe the defense is a little bit better. Instead of 32nd in running, maybe we're 24th. And maybe that makes a difference and pushes them to 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, but it's going to be tough. Like, the schedule is going to be tough. Playing the Bills twice, you got to play the Jets twice, and even the Patriots playing them twice. That's not easy. And then you got you got Dallas, the Eagles, the Washington, and the Giants, and then the Chiefs, the Chargers. Those aren't going to be easy games. Plus, look, I don't think the Broncos game is going to necessarily be easy, and the Raiders game might not necessarily be easy. I mean, again, we're ripping on McDaniels, but I mean, you never know how teams have different phases of the season where they're playing differently. So maybe some of these teams you could catch them when they're playing badly, or you could catch them at a point in the season where they're playing really well, and then that could be really tough, especially if you're on the road. So.
Yeah, 3 out of the first 4 on the road, it kind of takes away the Dolphins' advantage they usually have in September of playing home games when it's 100 degrees.
I mean, it's been cooling down a little bit. So, yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, so yeah, we're not again, we're going to try our best to, we're going to watch all the games and we're rooting for the Dolphins to win. Don't get me wrong, but we're also trying to be realistic about this. We also carry the trauma that Dolphins fans, that Dolphins fans who are our age have about this team, because most people that are young, they have no idea the Dolphins were actually good.
Yeah, and for the people who they're like, well, why don't you just support Tua? I mean, we need a good quarterback. It's like, yeah, but come on, we need a quarterback that's better than this. So, and it's like, well, what? Well, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and draft another quarterback. It's like, yeah, that's where most teams are in the NFL most of the time. They're pretty much like, all right, how the hell are we going to get a quarterback?
You can't make a quarterback great. They're great or they're not.
Yeah.
And he's not. All right, so let me see. I just wrote down some thoughts on some teams here. I wrote the Patriots are like Carson Daly. They're completely average in every way. Mac Jones is pretty average. I don't care how much the Boston people want to talk him up. He's an average quarterback. They have an average team. They basically have no Pro Bowlers. So yeah, they're gonna win an average amount of games. That's what their team is going to be. So stop trying to sell me like Bill Simmons and all the Boston people. Knock it off with, oh my God, this Patriots team is going to be awesome. Please. They'll be fine, like they always are. They're a ham sandwich. They're going to be fine. But nothing to shot about. I already talked about Kellen Moore. Josh McDaniels is a fraud. Really Derek Carr, really Seattle. Yeah. No, I said basically everything that I have on my list here. Maybe Buffalo's not a. That's the other thing that we should talk about. There's a difference between Super Bowl contender and good team that might be able to win their division. Okay, Buffalo. I don't care. Like, you can disagree about Super Bowl contender, but they're still a good team that's probably going to win their division. So there's a difference between, and I went through that in my list earlier, there's a difference between people who are actual contenders, that's about 7 teams, and the rest of the league. So just because, oh my God, the Broncos might win 9 games, okay, but that doesn't mean they're like legit contenders. There are levels to this, right? Winning the NFC North or the AFC South, isn't saying a whole lot. So, yeah, I think the Dolphins are in that middle level with a whole bunch of other teams that, are hoping they have a quarterback, but they don't.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that.
But it's going to be a really fun season because, hey, the Jets could completely fall apart. The Dolphins could completely fall apart. Who knows? Like, anything's on the table.
Yeah. By the way, and I'm going to point this out, and then at the end of the season we can go over this. But the Dallas Cowboys, they're not making the Super Bowl, and they're not making the NFC Championship game. Period. Not happening. I'm not even calling this a prediction. This is like us peering into the future and going, yeah, you see that's what's going to happen. They're not going to the Super Bowl, and they're not going to the NFC Championship game. Period. Like, I'm not even, like, there's no doubt in my mind that there is no way in hell that will happen. Okay? No, to quote Rob Parker, which I can't believe I'm doing, no way, no how. Okay? There is absolutely no way that's happening.
I don't think you want to be aligning yourself with Rob Parker, though.
Yeah.
Rob Parker said that Tom Brady was done in 2012. So
and then he said it again a few years later, and then a few years later, and then a few years later.
Yeah, so he was his predictions were sure to go way wrong.
Well, no. I don't know what he's predicted about the Cowboys. I'm just saying he quoted that line, no way, no how. I'm just saying literally the Cowboys, that's not happening. Okay, like I'm not really that convinced of any other prediction from this season. But that one, I'm like deadly sure of. The Cowboys will not be in the Super Bowl, and they will not be in the NFC Championship game.
The worst part about it is that the Cowboys will lose in some horrible way. Like, They will, like last year, Dak threw 2 interceptions, and just that game was right there for them to beat San Francisco, but they lost. The year before, they played San Francisco again, and the clock management at the end of the game, they couldn't get the field goal off. And like that's how it's going to go. I feel like when the Vikings lose in the playoffs, they just get their ass kicked because they're not as good. You know what I mean? They just got dominated by the Giants last year. It was just like, yeah, it was kind of an embarrassment. But the Cowboys do it in the worst way, which is why the Cowboys, you want to talk about trauma, the Cowboys carry a lot of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think, like, Nick Wright's saying the Chiefs are going to go 20-0, but he was saying that last year, so I don't think that's that serious. I mean, I will go out and say it. They're not going 20-0. Like, that's not, to me, that's not even a question. Other than that, I don't think I have any, like, really, well, yeah, all the ones that we said about they're not making the Super Bowl, I said that about the Cowboys, but all those other teams, I'm deadly sure of that those teams are not going to the Super Bowl. So other than that, I'm, flexible on these other, projections, I guess.
Yep. All right. I think that's all we got for our NFL preview. Looking forward to a great season. Can't wait to watch some Red Zone next weekend. We got the Chiefs Lions on Thursday night. Should be an entertaining game. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really fascinating what happens. And I'll be rooting for the Dolphins, and I'll be prepared to be disappointed.
Pretty much.
All right, folks, enjoy the season. Enjoy your weekend. We will catch up with you next weekend when we have college and pro games to talk about. Everybody have a good one.